The day I discovered my family thought I was worthless, I was curled up in my usual spot behind the living room couch, trying to manage another wave of pain. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but their voices carried through the house like poison. My name is Sonia, and at 23 I'd become what my family called their greatest burden. The irony was, I'd spent years trying to be anything but. "We can't keep doing this," my mother Olive's voice cracked with frustration. "The medical bills are drowning us. Bailey, we've already remortgaged the house twice." "Don't you think I know that?" my father's voice boomed. "I'm working 60-hour weeks, and it's still not enough. Meanwhile, Sonia just lies there day after day." I pressed my hand against my mouth to stifle a sob. The chronic pain condition that had taken over my life 2 years ago had already stolen my independence, my career prospects, and my dignity. Now it was stealing my family too. "Maybe we should consider the facility," my brother Terry suggested. "The one Dr. Harrison mentioned." "We can't afford that either," my mother snapped. "Then what do we do?" My twin sister Leah's voice surprised me. She'd always been my defender. "We're all putting our lives on hold. I had to drop out of grad school to help with the bills. Terry can't start his business. This isn't sustainable." "Lower your voice," my mother hissed. "She might hear you." "Maybe she should," Terry muttered. "Maybe then she'd understand what she's doing to this family." I'd heard enough. With trembling hands, I pulled myself up, using the couch for support. The movement sent sharp pains through my joints, but I bit my lip and forced myself to stand. "Sonia!" My mother's face went pale when I emerged. "How long have you been there?" "Long enough." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Long enough to hear how you really feel." "We didn't mean—" Leah started, but I cut her off. "Yes, you did." I looked at each of them. My mother's guilty face, my father's averted eyes, Terry's clenched jaw, and Leah's tears. "You meant every word." "You don't understand," my father began. "The stress, the bills." "I understand perfectly." I straightened my spine, ignoring the pain. "You see me as nothing but a burden, a problem to be solved. Well, let me solve it for you." "What are you talking about?" My mother stepped forward, but I backed away. "I'm leaving." The words came out before I'd even fully formed the thought, but as soon as I said them, I knew they were right. "Tonight." "Don't be ridiculous," Terry scoffed. "You can barely walk some days. Where will you go?" "Anywhere but here." I turned to Leah, my twin, my other half. "You dropped out of grad school because of me." She couldn't meet my eyes. "Sonia, Why didn't you tell me?" The betrayal cut deeper than any physical pain. "I thought we told each other everything." "I didn't want to make you feel guilty." I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "Well, mission failed." "You can't leave," my mother insisted. "You need care. What I need is to stop destroying this family." I took another step back. "And clearly the only way to do that is to remove myself from the equation." "You're being dramatic," my father said, but I could see the relief in his eyes. I turned and started walking toward the stairs, each step a battle against pain and emotion. "I'll be gone in an hour. You can have your lives back." "Sonia, wait!" Leah called after me, but I didn't wait. I couldn't. If I stopped, if I looked back, I might lose my resolve, and this was the first time in 2 years I felt certain about anything. In my room, I grabbed my backpack and stuffed it with essentials, medications, some clothes, my laptop, and the emergency cash I'd been saving. My hands shook as I typed a message to Vivian, my only friend who'd stuck around through everything. "Need a place to crash? Emergency, please." Her response came instantly. "Doors open, always." I could hear my family arguing downstairs, their voices rising and falling like waves. But for once I felt strangely calm. They'd made their choice, and now I was making mine. As I walked out the front door, my mother called out one last time. "Sonia, please, we can figure this out." I paused, my hand on the doorframe. "You already figured it out, Mom. I'm a burden you can't afford. So I'm setting you free." The door closed behind me with a final click, and I stepped into the cool evening air. Everything hurt. My body, my heart, my soul. But beneath the pain, something else was stirring. Determination. They thought I was nothing but a burden? Fine. I'd show them exactly what this burden could become. Vivian's tiny studio apartment became my sanctuary for the next few weeks. She didn't ask questions when I showed up at her door that night, just wrapped me in a hug and helped me to her couch. "Your family's idiots," she said one morning, watching me struggle through my physical therapy exercises. "But maybe this is your chance to rebuild without their negativity weighing you down." I gritted my teeth through another stretch. If I can even support myself, who's going to hire someone who can barely make it through a day? Actually, Vivian perked up, I might know someone. Remember that wellness center I've been going to? The owner, Moses, he's looking for help with research and client coordination. Mostly remote work. That's how I found myself sitting across from Moses Burton in his office the next day, trying not to fidget under his intense gaze. "Vivian tells me you have first-hand experience with chronic illness," he said, leaning back in his chair. "If by experience you mean it ruined my life, then yes." I forced a smile. "But I'm learning to manage it," he nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly why I want to hire you. Our clients need someone who understands their struggles personally, someone who can empathize while helping them navigate their wellness journey." "I don't have any formal qualifications, but you have lived experience," he interrupted. "And from what I can see, a determination to overcome. That's more valuable than any degree." The job started small, 20 hours a week, mostly answering emails and coordinating between clients and practitioners. But Moses saw something in me that even I hadn't recognized yet. "You have a gift," he told me one day, after I'd helped talk a panic-stricken client through a flare-up. "You understand the emotional side of chronic illness, not just the physical." "I've had plenty of practice," I said dryly. He shook his head. "No, it's more than that. You should be developing programs, not just supporting them." That conversation changed everything. Moses became more than just my boss. He became my mentor. He taught me about holistic healing, business development, and, most importantly, how to turn my weakness into strength. "Your illness isn't your enemy," he explained during one of our late-night strategy sessions. "It's your teacher. Everything you've learned about managing it, about adapting and surviving, that's valuable knowledge." 6 months into working with Moses, I pitched my first wellness program. My hands trembled as I presented to the center's board of directors. "The current protocols work for some people," I explained, clicking through my presentation. "But they're missing the psychological component. We need to address the trauma of chronic illness, not just the symptoms." The program launched 2 months later. The response was overwhelming. "This is exactly what I needed," one client sobbed during a group session. "Someone who actually understands what it's like to feel like a burden." That word, burden, still stung, but now it fueled me. Every time I thought about giving up, I remembered my family's words, their dismissal, their relief when I left. "You're different," Vivian observed one evening, a year after I'd shown up at her door. "Stronger." I looked up from my laptop where I was developing my second program. I had to be. "Have you heard from them at all?" "Leah texts sometimes," I admitted. "I don't respond." "And the pain?" I flexed my fingers, considering. "Still there, but it doesn't control me anymore. I control it." Moses's Wellness Center expanded to 3 locations, and I grew with it. My programs became the foundation of our chronic illness support system. I was no longer just surviving, I was thriving. "I'm opening my own center," I told Moses during our weekly meeting 2 years after he'd first hired me. "I found a space across town." He grinned. "Finally. I was wondering when you'd be ready to spread your wings." "You're not mad?" "Mad," he laughed. "Sonia, this was always the plan. Why do you think I pushed you so hard to learn every aspect of the business?" I blinked back tears. "I don't know how to thank you." "Thank me by succeeding. Show everyone who doubted you exactly what you're capable of." As I signed the lease on my new wellness center a month later, I thought about my family. They probably still pictured me as that broken girl curled up behind the couch. They had no idea that their rejection had become my resurrection. To new beginnings, Vivian toasted that night, raising her glass of sparkling cider. Alcohol triggered my inflammation. To proving them wrong, I replied, clinking my glass against hers. The pain was still my constant companion, but now it was just background noise to the symphony of my success. I wasn't their burden anymore. I was my own salvation. Success has a way of making you feel invincible, but it also has a way of bringing the past crashing back into your life when you least expect it. My wellness center had grown beyond my wildest dreams. 3 years after opening, we had a waiting list 6 months long and a reputation for transforming lives. I'd just finished a consultation when Vivian burst into my office, her face pale. "You need to see this," she said, thrusting her tablet at me. The local news website showed a familiar face. My father Bailey, standing outside his engineering firm. The headline made my stomach drop. Local business declares bankruptcy. Hundreds lose jobs. There's more. Vivian swiped to another article. Your mom's medical practice is struggling too. They're facing multiple malpractice suits. I set the tablet down, my hands trembling slightly. How long have you been tracking them? Someone had to. She sat across from me. They're in serious trouble, Sonia, the kind that destroys families. They already destroyed this family, I reminded her. Maybe. But you're not them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled up my family's information on my laptop. It wasn't hard to find. The malpractice suits against my mother's practice stemmed from rushed diagnoses, the kind of mistakes that happen when you're desperate to see more patients to stay afloat. My father's company had been hemorrhaging money for years. "What are you thinking?" Moses asked the next day over lunch. He still served as my mentor, even though we were technically competitors now. "I'm thinking about karma," I replied, pushing my salad around, "and about how it doesn't feel as good as I thought it would." He leaned back, studying me. "So what are you going to do about it?" That afternoon, I made some calls. By evening, I had a plan. "You're insane," Vivian said when I told her. "After everything they did, I'm not doing it for them." I showed her the paperwork. "I'm doing it because I refuse to be like them." Over the next 6 months, I worked through a series of shell companies to help my family without their knowledge. An anonymous investor helped settle my mother's malpractice suits in exchange for her implementing better patient care protocols. Protocols I'd designed. A mysterious business consultant offered restructuring advice to my father's remaining employees, helping them start their own firm. "Your sister's applying for medical assistance," my assistant announced one morning, "for her son's therapy." I didn't even know I had a nephew. "Process it," I said, swallowing hard. "Priority status." The assistance came through a foundation I'd established, one specializing in helping families affected by medical debt. The irony wasn't lost on me. "You're too good for them," Vivian insisted over dinner. "They don't deserve your help." "Maybe not," I sipped my tea. "But I deserve to be better than they were." Then came the day I'd been both dreading and anticipating. A familiar name appeared on my client list. Olive McGregor. "Your mother's here for her consultation," my receptionist called. "Send her to conference room B," I replied. "Tell her the consultant will be right in." I watched through the one-way glass as my mother settled into a chair. She looked older, tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying too many burdens. I almost laughed at the parallel. "Are you going in?" Vivian asked softly. "No." I handed her the file. "You're handling this consultation. Don't mention me." I listened as Vivian explained our wellness programs to my mother, watched as Olive's eyes lit up with hope when she heard about our success rates. "The only problem is the cost," my mother said, deflating. "We've had financial difficulties." "Actually," Vivian smiled, "you qualify for our foundation program. Full coverage." My mother burst into tears. "I don't understand. Why would you help us?" "Because everyone deserves a chance to heal," Vivian replied, using my own words. Later that night, I sat in my office looking at old family photos on my phone. You know they'll find out eventually, Moses said from the doorway, especially once your mother starts the program. I know. I put the phone away. But by then, they'll have to face more than just me. They'll have to face what they did and what I became in spite of it. And when they do, I stood up, gathering my things. Then they'll learn what I learned, that sometimes the people you dismiss as burdens turn out to be the ones holding you up when you fall. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 years ago, they'd thrown away their burden. Now, without even knowing it, they were being saved by it. Karma works in mysterious ways. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was reviewing client files when my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "There's an Olive McGregor on line 1. She's quite insistent about speaking with the owner." My heart stopped. After 6 months in our program, my mother had made remarkable progress. But we'd managed to keep my involvement hidden, until now. "How did she find out?" I asked Vivian, after forwarding the call to voicemail. "Social media," she grimaced. "Someone tagged you in a photo from the wellness conference last week. Your mum saw it and recognized you as the owner." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Leah's number. "You should answer it," Vivian urged. "You can't hide forever." I took a deep breath and picked up. "Hello?" "Sonia?" Leah's voice cracked. "Is it really you?" "It's me." "Why didn't you tell us? Mum's been raving about this wellness centre for months, and it was yours all along." I gripped the phone tighter. Would it have mattered? Of course it would have. We've been trying to find you for years. Ever since you realised you needed something from me. The words came out sharper than intended. "That's not fair," she paused. "We're having a family dinner tonight. Please come. There's so much we need to talk about. I'm busy." "Sonia, please. Mum's a mess. Dad's not sleeping. Even Terry's asking for you. We know we messed up." I closed my eyes, remembering the pain of that night behind the couch. "Messed up? You broke me, Leah. And you rebuilt yourself. Brilliantly. Let us see who you've become." Moses found me in my office an hour later, staring at the wall. "Going to dinner?" he asked, though I hadn't told him about the call. "How did you—" "Vivian texted me. She's worried you'll either not go and regret it or go and explode." I laughed humorlessly. "Those do seem to be my options." He sat down across from me. "You've been helping them from the shadows for months. Maybe it's time to step into the light." "And say what? Hey, remember your burden. Surprise, I'm actually successful now." "No." He leaned forward. "Say whatever you need to say to free yourself from their power over you." The house looked exactly the same when I pulled up that evening. My hands shook as I adjusted my designer blazer, armor for the battle ahead. Leah opened the door before I could knock. "You came!" She moved to hug me, then stopped herself, uncertain. "I came," I agreed, stepping past her. The family was gathered in the living room. My mother perched nervously on the edge of the couch, my father in his usual armchair, Terry pacing by the window. They all froze when they saw me. "Sonia," my mother breathed. "You look—" "Successful," I supplied. "Healthy. Not quite the burden you remember." "We didn't know," my father started. "What exactly didn't you know, Dad? That I could succeed? That I could build something meaningful? Or that I've been the one keeping this family afloat for the past 6 months?" Terry stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "The investor who saved Mum's practice. The consultant who helped your employees. The foundation paying for Leah's son's therapy." That was all me. The silence was deafening. "Why?" my mother whispered. "Because I needed to prove something, not to you, but to myself, that I could be more than the burden you thought I was." "We were wrong," my father's voice cracked. "So terribly wrong." "We're drowning, Sonia," my mother admitted. "The wellness program at your centre. It's the only thing that's given me hope. When I found out it was yours, you thought you'd cash in on the family connection." The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "No," Leah interjected. "We thought maybe it was a sign, a chance to make things right." I looked around the room, at these people who had once been my whole world, who had shattered that world with their rejection. Now they sat before me, humbled and desperate. "I have a meeting tomorrow morning," I said, standing. 9 a.m. If you want to make things right, come to my office. All of you. We'll discuss this properly. "You're leaving?" Terry asked. "Yes." I straightened my shoulders, but this time it's my choice. And this time, I'm not the one who needs help. I walked out, head high, the sound of my heels on the hardwood floor echoing through the silent house. In my car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. Tomorrow would change everything, again. But this time, I was the one in control. They arrived at 8:45 a.m., all four of them huddled awkwardly in my reception area, like lost tourists. I watched through the security feed as Vivian approached them. "Ms. McGregor will see you now," she announced, professional and cold. I'd never loved her more. My office was designed to impress. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, and a wall of awards and press coverage. I stood behind my desk as they filed in, taking in their reactions. My mother's eyes widened at the view, my father's gaze locked on the financial magazine covers featuring my face, and Terry whistled under his breath. "Please sit," I gestured to the chairs arranged before my desk. "This is quite something," my father managed. "It is," I agreed, remaining standing. "Built from scratch with no family support or connections. Imagine that." Leah flinched. "Sonia, Let me speak first." I pressed a button on my desk. "Vivian, hold all my calls." I walked around to lean against the front of my desk, closer to them but still maintaining the power position Moses had taught me about. 3 years ago, I was nothing but a burden to this family. A financial drain. A disappointment. I let each word land like a stone. Today, I run a multi-million-dollar wellness empire. My programs have helped thousands of people, and yes, they've helped you too. "We had no idea," my mother whispered. "That's the point, isn't it? You never bothered to look past what I couldn't do to see what I could." I pulled out a folder. "Let's talk about why you're really here." Terry shifted uncomfortably. "We want to make amends." "No." I spread out several documents on my desk. "You want a bailout. Mom's practice is drowning in debt even after my intervention. Dad's bankruptcy destroyed his credit. Terry's startup failed, and Leah's struggling with her son's medical bills." Their shocked faces confirmed every word. "How do you know all this?" Leah asked. "I make it my business to know everything about my investments, even the anonymous ones." "You've been watching us?" My father's voice rose slightly. "Like you watched me suffer," I shot back. "The difference is I actually did something to help." My mother stood suddenly, tears streaming down her face. "I don't care about the money. I care that my daughter became this amazing person, and I missed it. I missed everything." "Sit down, Mom." My voice softened slightly. "I'm not finished." She sank back into her chair. "I'm going to make you an offer," I continued, "not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to be the person who turns away family in need, even family who turned away from me." I handed each of them a contract. "These are offers of employment, real positions in my company based on your actual skills. Mum, our medical advisory board needs experienced doctors. Dad, our facilities management department needs engineers. Terry, our marketing team has an opening. And Leah, our client services division, needs coordinators who understand family dynamics." They stared at the papers in silence. "This isn't charity," I emphasized. "You'll work hard. You'll earn every penny. And you'll do it under my leadership. You want us to work for you?" Terry's voice cracked. "I want you to earn your redemption." I stood straight. "Take the weekend to think about it. But understand this. These offers are one time only. If you accept, you play by my rules. If you decline, our relationship goes back to what it's been for the past 3 years. Nothing." "And if we accept?" my father asked quietly. "Then you'll learn what I've known for years now, that sometimes our greatest challenges become our greatest strengths." I walked back around my desk. "You have until Monday morning to decide." "I don't need until Monday." Leah stood up. "I'm in." One by one, they all agreed, signing the contracts with shaking hands. "Welcome to McGregor Wellness," I said formally. "Orientation starts next week. Vivian will show you out." As they filed out, my mother paused at the door. "Sonia." "Yes?" "That day, behind the couch, I've replayed it 1,000 times. If I could take it back—" "You can't," I interrupted. "But you can prove you've changed. Starting now." After they left, Vivienne brought me a cup of tea. "You okay?" I looked out over the city skyline. You know what's funny? For years I dreamed of this moment, showing them what they threw away. But now that it's happened, it feels different. It feels like the beginning of something, not the end. I turned to face her, either the beginning of their redemption or the beginning of their biggest regret, she finished. I nodded, picking up my tea. "I guess we'll find out which one on Monday." 3 months into working with my family, everything imploded. It started during our quarterly board meeting, where I'd asked each of them to present their department's progress. My mother went first, her presentation polished and professional. She'd transformed our medical advisory board, implementing stricter protocols and better patient care standards. I couldn't help but feel a hint of pride. Then came my father's facilities report. That's when things went sideways. "These renovation costs are excessive," he announced, deviating from his prepared slides. "We're spending too much on accessibility features that only a small percentage of clients use." The room went silent. I felt every eye turn to me. "Those accessibility features," I said quietly, "are the reason many of our clients can access treatment at all. But the cost-benefit analysis shows that we're helping people who otherwise couldn't get help." I stood up. "Like, say, a daughter with chronic illness." He flushed red. "That's not what I meant." "Really? Because it sounds exactly like the same thinking that made you throw away your daughter." "Sonia," my mother interrupted. "Maybe we should take a break." "No." I slammed my hand on the table. "Let's have this out, right here, right now." Terry stood up. "This isn't the place." "It's exactly the place." I gestured around the boardroom. "This company exists because you all decided I wasn't worth the investment. Every accessible doorway, every rest area, every accommodation we offer is a direct response to what you denied me." Leah started crying. "We know we were wrong." "Do you?" I turned to my father. "Because it sounds like Dad still thinks helping people like me is a waste of resources." "That's unfair," he protested. "I'm trying to think about the business." "The business?" I laughed bitterly. "The business is successful precisely because we don't think like you. We don't measure people's worth by their cost." Moses, who'd been quietly observing, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should adjourn—" "No," I cut him off. "I want them to understand exactly what they're part of now." I pulled up our client testimonials on the screen. Sarah, age 34, couldn't access traditional therapy because of mobility issues. Mark, age 45, was told his chronic fatigue was all in his head. Julia, age 28, bankrupted her family trying to get treatment. I clicked through face after face, story after story. These are our clients, people like me, people you would consider burdens. And guess what? They're the reason we're profitable. Their success is our success. My mother stood up slowly. "We were wrong, Sonia. So terribly wrong. But punishing us forever won't change the past." "This isn't punishment," I snapped. "This is reality. My reality. The one you couldn't handle." "Then why hire us at all?" Terry demanded. "Why not just let us fail?" "Because I wanted you to see." My voice cracked. "I wanted you to understand what you threw away. What you could have been part of if you'd just believed in me." The room fell silent again, but this time it was heavy with understanding. "Every day," I continued softer now, "I deal with pain. Physical pain, yes, but also the pain of remembering how easily you discarded me, and every day I turn that pain into purpose. That's what this company does. We take the people society discards and show them their value." Leah wiped her eyes. "And what about us? Do we have value here?" "That depends." I straightened my jacket. Are you ready to actually understand what we do? Or are you just here because you needed a job? My father stood up slowly. I was wrong about the renovations, and I was wrong 3 years ago. I'd like to revise my proposal if you'll let me. I nodded curtly. You have until tomorrow. Sonia. My mother reached for my hand across the table. We see you now. We really do. I pulled my hand back. Seeing isn't enough anymore. I need you to understand. Really understand. Then help us understand, Terry said. Show us how. I looked at each of them. My broken, humbled family sitting in the company built from their rejection. Fine. I pressed the intercom. Vivian, cancel my afternoon appointments. My family needs a tour of our facilities. The full tour. All of it? She asked, knowing what I meant. All of it, including the pain management center. I turned to my family. You want to understand? Let's start with where I spent my first year after leaving home. Let's see if you can handle the reality of what your burden became. They followed me out of the boardroom, silent and subdued. It was time they saw exactly what their daughter had built from the ashes of their rejection. And maybe, just maybe, they'd finally understand the true cost of calling someone a burden. The Pain Management Center was exactly as I remembered it, a place where broken people came to be rebuilt. I watched my family's faces as we walked through the facility, past clients doing physical therapy, attending support groups, and learning to live with their conditions. This is where I slept, I said, stopping at a small room. After I left home, Moses found me a spot here. I worked as a night receptionist in exchange for treatment. My mother touched the doorframe, her hand trembling. You lived here? For 8 months. I moved past her. While you were all probably wondering if I was even alive, I was here. Learning, growing, building. We entered the main therapy room where a group session was in progress. The facilitator, Maria, smiled when she saw me. Everyone, this is Sonia, she announced. The one I've been telling you about. A young woman in a wheelchair rolled forward. You're the founder? The one who started as a patient here? I am. I turned to my family. This is my family. They're here to learn about what we do. Oh, the woman's eyes lit up. You must be so proud of her. The silence that followed was deafening. Actually, I said quietly, they're just learning about this part of my life. They weren't around when it happened. Understanding dawned on the group's faces. One man stood up, leaning heavily on his cane. My family abandoned me too, he said. Said I was too expensive to keep around. But your program saved my life. My father made a choked sound. Would you like to join our session? Maria offered. We're discussing family impact today. I looked at my stunned family. Yes, I think we would. We sat in the circle, and for the next hour, we listened to stories that mirrored my own. People discarded by loved ones, fighting to rebuild their lives. With each testimony, I watched my family crumble a little more. Sonia, Maria said, would you like to share your story? I took a deep breath. 3 years ago, I overheard my family discussing what a burden I was, how I was ruining their lives with my medical needs. So I left. I came here and Moses showed me that my weakness could become my strength. And now? Maria prompted. Now they work for me. A few people gasped, because sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. How does that feel? She asked. I looked at my family, my mother crying silently, my father staring at his hands, Leah and Terry exchanging guilty glances. It feels unfinished. I stood up. Would you excuse us? I need to speak with my family privately. We moved to my private office, where they all collapsed into chairs, emotionally drained. Those people, my mother whispered, they're all just like you were. No, I corrected her. They're all just like I am. The illness doesn't go away, Mom. The pain doesn't stop. We just learn to live with purpose despite it. I don't know how you don't hate us, Terry muttered. Who says I don't? I leaned against my desk. But hate doesn't build empires. Pain does. Determination does. And sometimes, forgiveness does. Can you? Leah asked. Forgive us? I don't know. I walked to the window. But I'm willing to try if you are. Really try. Not just because you need jobs, but because you want to understand and make amends. My father finally looked up. How? By acknowledging what you did. By working to make sure no other family makes the same mistake. By helping me build something that matters. And if we fail? My mother asked. Then you fail. But at least you'll have tried. I turned back to them. That's more than you did 3 years ago. They all flinched at that. I want to stay, my father said suddenly. Not for the job, for you. To understand what I threw away. To try to be the father you deserved. One by one, they all made similar commitments. Not just to their jobs, but to understanding, to learning, to changing. Okay, I said finally. Then let's start over. Not as the family we were, but as the family we could be. How? Leah asked. By doing the work. All of it. The hard conversations, the painful realizations, the actual change. I sat behind my desk. Starting tomorrow, you'll each spend 1 day a week working directly with our clients. No titles, no authority, just listening and learning. They nodded, understanding the magnitude of what I was offering. Not just employment, but redemption. Thank you, my mother whispered, for giving us this chance. Don't thank me yet, I replied, the hard part's just beginning. As they filed out, I caught my reflection in the window, stronger, fiercer, but maybe, just maybe, ready to heal the final wound, the one they'd left in my heart. The morning of our centre's annual client celebration, I found my mother arranging flowers in the main hall. She didn't notice me watching as she helped a client in a wheelchair adjust their corsage. There, she smiled. Beautiful. Just like you. The client beamed. Thank you, Dr. Olive, for everything. My father appeared next, carrying chairs with Terry. They'd redesigned the entire space to be more accessible, working directly with clients to understand their needs. No cost-benefit analysis required. Need help? I asked, making them jump. Sonia! My father set down his chair. We wanted to surprise you. Consider me surprised. I looked around at the transformed space. This is different from last year. We learned from our mistakes, Terry said quietly. Finally. The celebration was our biggest event of the year, a chance for clients to share their progress and success stories. As people filed in, I noticed Leah guiding her son, my nephew Tommy, through the crowd. He'd been thriving since starting our children's program. Aunt Sonia! He ran to hug me. Mum says I get to tell my story today. That's right, buddy. I ruffled his hair. Think you're ready? He nodded seriously. I practiced with Grandma and Grandpa. Moses appeared at my elbow. It's time. I took the stage, looking out at the gathered faces, clients, staff, and my family, all mixed together exactly as they should be. Welcome, everyone. When I started this centre, I was broken. Not just physically, but emotionally. I thought being sick meant being worthless. I caught my mother's eye. I was wrong. The stories began. Client after client shared their journeys, their triumphs, their ongoing battles. Then Tommy stepped up. My name is Tommy, and I was born with cerebral palsy. His voice was clear and strong. My Aunt Sonia taught me that being different isn't bad. It just means you have to find your own way to be amazing. Leah wiped tears from her eyes as Tommy continued. My mum works here now. So do my grandparents and my uncle. They help other people understand what they didn't understand before. That everyone has value. My father stood up suddenly. May I say something? I nodded, surprised. He joined me on stage. 3 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I threw away my daughter because I couldn't see past her illness. His voice cracked. But she turned that rejection into something extraordinary. She built this place not just to help others, but to teach people like me what really matters. The room was silent as he turned to face me. Sonia, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for what I did. Not because you're successful now, but because you were always worth it. I just couldn't see it then. I felt tears threatening but held them back. Dad, my mother stood next. We lost our daughter once because we were blind and scared, but she gave us a second chance, not just to be her family again, but to be better people. Terry joined them. She took our greatest shame and turned it into our greatest lesson. And our greatest blessing, Leah added, hugging Tommy. I looked out at the crowd, at the lives we'd touched, the families we'd helped, the changes we'd made. Then, at my own family, standing together, finally understanding. When people ask me why I built this centre, I said, I usually talk about helping others. But the truth is, I built it to prove something. Not just that I had value, but that everyone does. Even those who seem like burdens. Even those who make mistakes. Even those who need second chances. I turned to my family. You asked me once if I could forgive you. The answer is yes. Not because you've earned it, though you have. Not because you've changed, though you have. But because forgiveness, like healing, is a choice we make every day. My father hugged me for the first time in 3 years. Then my mother, Leah, Terry, and Tommy joined in. Group hug, Tommy announced, making everyone laugh through their tears. Later, as the celebration continued around us, Vivian appeared with Moses. Look at you, she smiled. The family that broke you helped make you whole again. No, I corrected her. We made each other whole. That's what family is supposed to do. Moses squeezed my shoulder. Ready to tell them about the expansion plans? I watched my father helping a client navigate the buffet, my mother deep in conversation with a support group, Terry teaching kids adaptive sports, and Leah leading a parents' discussion circle. Not yet, I smiled. Let them enjoy this moment. We have all the time in the world now. Because sometimes the heaviest burdens become the strongest foundations, and sometimes the deepest wounds become the greatest gifts. My family had learned that lesson the hard way, but then again, those are always the lessons that stick.